Hello, everyone. Boy, I tell you, if they think social media is keeping you indoors, I have to tell a different story. Trying to go out here into the woods and find a different place to tell my little stuff every morning is getting me to explore parts around the monastery I haven't even realized existed. It's beautiful. Anyway, I wanted to tell another story. I woke up in the middle of the night last night and I was having one of those moments, oh gosh, what should I talk about? And of course, Mother always comes up with something. Anyway, she reminded me right then and there in the middle of the night. It was the sweetest thing to think about. The days right after I took my sannyas, my final renunciation. And I was wandering in the Himalayas up around Mayavati. That's right? Mayavati's in the Himalayas. I got the right place. I get it mixed up with Mysore. Anyway, Mayavati, up in the foothills of the Himalayas, and I was wandering with some of my batchmates, some of the men who had taken their sannyas with me. And we had gotten in the habit of leaving the ashram in the morning and hiking up into the hills there and finding a good, beautiful place to meditate for a while. And so one day we were doing that, and we were walking up this tiny little trail. It was hardly a trail. And we came across a goat herder, this old man. Gosh, he must have been, I don't know how old he was, but he looked eternally old, let's put it that way. And he had 5 goats with him. One of them was sort of halfway up a tree, and the other ones were around. And the thing that was unbelievable to me was that as we approached, when he saw us, of course we were all in our Garawa robes at that point, walking up there, some of us barefoot, I was in sandals, and carrying our chutters and beads and whatnot. And when he saw us, he just went flat down on the ground, laid just flat out, did an Ashtanga Pranam, laid there on the ground with his head in the dirt, and didn't move for our entire approach. And even when we got there and walked past him, he stayed. And when I looked back at him just before we kind of went back down into a gully, he was still laying on the ground in respect, a salute. I was amazed at that, and I've pondered him through the years here, just that humility, that dedication, that sweetness of character, that simplicity, that he probably had less than what I enjoy these days, and yet somehow I'm the sannyasin. And I was really touched by that, really moved by that. There was another experience very similar to that in Kualpara, which is over toward Calcutta again, where Holy Mother used to spend some of her time in a little shrine there. And I had gone there to, as a brahmachari, as a novice, to spend some time with the Swami down there, because I had heard that he was quite a great Swami, and he was indeed. He eventually wandered off to the Narmada. We're all wandering to Narmada. Wandered off to Narmada to be a wandering monk on the banks of that holy river. But I went to see him at his ashram, and I was saluting in the shrine. And when I got up and turned around and started to go outside, actually the shrine there is almost outside. It just has sort of a grilled gate around it. He was standing there again with an older man who was dressed in white and matched his hair perfectly. And he didn't speak any English. The Swami did, but this man did not. And when I approached, the man looked at me rather oddly, like, what what is this? What am I? Because, I'm a white man, and I was wearing my white dhoti and kurta, and had my little white brahmachari beanie on at that time. And he looked at me, and he was just a puzzled look on his face. And he turned to the Swami and asked in his own language, the Swami told me, what is this? Who is this man? And the Swami told him, oh, this is Brahmachari Santosha Chaitanya. And the man looked at me in surprise, just a real wonder. And then he went flat down on the ground in an Ashtanga Pranam. And of course, in the West, we have no tradition like that. There is no reason on God's earth that a man would bow down flat on the ground with his face in the dirt to another person. And so, of course, both of these stories made huge impressions to me. And as I'm telling them, there's yet a third one that I can go into. But this man went flat down on the ground, and the Swami kind of pulled him up and said, "No, no, come on." And I also was pulling him up because I was like, "What in the world? This is the strangest thing ever, especially for a brahmachari, you know." So he stood up, and he was in tears, and the Swami was consoling him, and the Swami said, "Here, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And they had this conversation in whatever. Sorry for my ignorance. I don't know what language they were speaking, but I couldn't understand it. And Swami told me after the man left. He said, "I said, what was he saying? What was he talking about?" And the Swami said, "Well, he didn't know who you were or what you were because you were a Westerner, and he couldn't imagine a Westerner in a brahmachari garb. So he was confused by that. And when I told him that yes, you had joined the Ramakrishna order and were renouncing the world, that was when he fell down on the ground in a full-on pranam. And when the Swami stood him up and talked to him, the Swami asked him why he was weeping, why he was having such a response. And he said, "All of my life I've wanted to renounce, but I was not able. And here's this boy who comes from the West with riches beyond which I can imagine, who has renounced the world. I could not do anything else but fall to the ground." It was so beautiful. It was so touching, so amazing to me. But it caused me to think quite a bit. And there's an error in that thinking, though. I had a dream once about this very subject, and I was standing at the beginning of a beach, a vast, almost infinite beach, with white sand as far as you could see touching the shore. And there were thousands of people on this beach, not crowded, but thousands of dispersed people. And each of them had their own pile of sand that they were trying to add more to. They were just grabbing the sand from wherever they could, and there was conflicts where people were fighting over the same sand, and some people were running over while the person was out digging and taking that other person's sand for his pile. And it was just people piling sand. And I understood immediately, that's the nature of this limited world. All of us gathering worthless things, all of our belongings, all of our owning, or all of our possessions, and guarding them and stealing them and working for them and cherishing them and trying to get more and more and more of them. But it's sand. And if you've eaten a tablespoon of sand, you don't have to eat another tablespoon of sand to know that there's nothing there, that it's not good for you, that it doesn't taste good, and there's no nutrition value in it at all. And our wealth is like that. The things that we pursue in this world. It's like, yes, you can collect them and they dazzle and they're fun, and you can make a pile of them and sit as a king on your own pile of sand. But in the end, it's sand. Potting soil, as I once mentioned before. And so when we look at riches, we shouldn't think, oh, the man who renounces, all the riches in the world and the man who renounces a coffee cup. There's no difference in that. It's sand. It has no value beyond that. So take that perspective. One way to test it, well, there's so many ways of testing. Just paying attention will reveal it to you so clearly. I've had to clean up some estates of people who have passed away here at the center, and all the treasures that they had that were so important to them that they had kept their whole lives. Their photo albums, their knickknacks, their souvenirs from trips, their letters from loved ones. I put them all in big black trash bags and carried them out to the dumpster. Broken-hearted because I knew that it was only love that made them valuable to that person. But the person had attached to the object, to the thing. And at the end of life, it just goes. And so why not let it go now? Make your life simple. There's nothing but a refreshing new breath of air when you walk away from everything and begin to love, begin to live. So that's my encouragement today. Pay attention. Live for what is meaningful. The love you have to give and share, and the love that springs from an endless source within your heart. Live in the light, the freedom, the bliss, and the happiness of knowing what is important. And your life will be full. Your life will be beautiful. And the memories of lost ones will be cherished because of the love when all the objects have gone.